So rust finally killed the axle on my truck, so I picked up a new one on Marketplace, and let's see if we can get it swapped in.
So do you remember when I had that leaking rear differential and I replaced the seal and it was like, oh yeah, all good? Not so much. So turns out it's not leaking on the diff cover, but actually on the back side of the differential. The metal has rusted through thin enough that it slowly started weeping oil. And I know this because the leak did not go away after replacing the seal and progressively got worse until I took a much closer look at it. So not many options there. It's not the cover, it's the backside, so I can't really replace just part of it. So I found this on Marketplace. It's a whole axle assembly from another truck which has little to no rust on it, which is significantly better than mine. But like any used parts, it's always a mixed bag. You never know exactly what you're getting, so I'm gonna take a look at this thing, open it all up, and see what we're dealing with. Brake lines are pretty bad, but I'm gonna swap everything from my truck over anyway. So we do have that breather there. I don't know if that's snapped off or if that's threaded. I've never actually played around with that before, so we'll have to see how everything transfers over. Oh, nice. So the good news is that it's been holding oil this whole time. Even though I've had it pinioned down and tilted and all that as it's been moving around the garage here, nothing's been leaking. That's a good sign. The thing that's not a good sign is my truck has a limited slip in the rear and this one does not. And I was under the impression it did. It's not the end of the world and I could move it over. Okay, so now that I got this pretty much taken apart and disassembled, I want to clean up the entire surface of it. I don't want to have to deal with this rust issue again. This thing's got some kind of coating on it in spots and stuff, but I figured why not just do it right before I get it under the truck and it's hard to work on again. So I'm gonna wire wheel the whole thing and then put some chassis paint over the whole thing. So I got the big one for the grinder and these couple other ones. I'm hoping that'll be enough to strip it and we'll go from there. Here's the first pass with the cup. Pretty good overall. Obviously I couldn't get in all those little nooks, which I'll go back and grab. For the most part, pretty good. Now the cover's getting replaced, so we're not doing that, but look at this mess. Also, take a look at this. That right there is why you always wear safety glasses while you're using wire wheels, because you don't want that in your eye. Oh, here's another one. Okay, so there's two things I want to check here. One is the backlash, which is what I'm about to do here. And what I'm checking is basically the play between the ring gear and the pinion. So I'm gonna feel in the back and see how much play this has in thousandths of an inch. The idea is that now you want some play in it. If you don't have any play in it, when things heat up, they're gonna mash and grind together. But if you have too much play in there, it's gonna make noise, and it's also gonna lower the life expectancy of all your gears and parts. So I wanna see what this one's at stock. So we got this set up on the gear here, set to 0. Put my hand on back here. So from what I've read on these trucks, you want 5 to 7,000. So we're right between 6 to 7,000. So I think we're good in that sense. The next thing we're gonna check is the mesh on the gears, and I'll show you how we're gonna do that. Check the engagement of this gear. What we're gonna do is use some gear marking compound. And what it is, it's a yellow compound. We're gonna brush it onto it. We're gonna spin it around, and it's gonna rub the paint off, or the compound off, where it's contacting. We can see if it's in the middle and nice and the right depth, it'll be perfect. If it's too close to one edge or the other, only on the tip, then we know we have a problem. Okay, so with 3 of the teeth marked, go back and forth a few times on it. Let's see. Okay, so here's the pattern on the pinion here, and it's hard to see, but you can see that it's wearing there. So forward to backwards on this is is telling you about the backlash. And the other thing we're checking is how deep into these they go. So you can see that these are right in the middle, which is perfect. That means the pinion depth is exactly where it needs to be. Now the wear on this being towards the outside here says that there's a little too much backlash, which we kind of measured, right? I said we want about 5 to 7, and we're at 7,000s. So we're riding towards the edge there, but I think it's okay. I have a bit of dilemma now. So with this axle, seems like it's decent. Not the best on the backlash, and it's an open diff, which kind of sucks since I had a limited slip already. I could swap this in my truck right now, call it a day, done, I have a truck again. Or I could rebuild this axle and maybe bring the limited slip from my truck into this one and say, okay, pretty much new axle. Or the third option, which is don't fully rebuild this axle, just replace the seals, throw it in the truck and say at some point, I'm gonna redo the gearing anyway for my bigger tires, but I don't know. I gotta think about that. The axle out, you can see you got this collar right here. You can spin that out and the bearings are right behind that. Got it. Everything stripped off of this. I cleaned up the outside and I degreased it with some mineral spirits, and then now I'm gonna try and give this thing a quick paint. So I'm gonna use Chassis Saver. I had actually bought this for something else, didn't end up using it, so I'm gonna give it a try for this. It's basically frame paint, or perfect for something like an axle. You can either spray it or brush it. I'm gonna brush it, mostly because tight quarters here. Instead of getting overspray and everything, I'm gonna put down some tarps. Gonna try to give it. Now you can, depending on the dry time, you can recoat this in 3 to 6 hours. And it's a little cold in here, so what I'm probably gonna do is set up, I have an infrared heater I'm probably gonna set up to try and keep this thing a little bit warmer. Although, if you do go past a 24-hour window to recoat, you can scuff it with 400 grit sandpaper, which may end up happening if it takes the full 6 hours to get a second coat on this. So either way, I'm gonna put a first coat on, let's see how it goes. All right, so I got one coat on here. I tried not to go too thick on it, but the viscosity of the paint is a little bit on the thicker side, so with a brush application, it's easy to get thicker in some spots, but definitely looks better than before. So the spots where the jack stands are, when I go to put the second coat, I'll rotate or move them in or out in order to get that spot, and then maybe when it's in the truck, I'll have to hit just the bottom of it again with one last coat. But so that's it. I'm gonna get a heater on it, make sure it dries properly.
All right, well, this is where we're gonna leave this one for now. We're gonna pick it back up when everything's dry.